Sumter County Jane Doe, identified after 45 years without a name. On the 9th of August, 1976, the authorities in Sumter County, South Carolina received a call. Two bodies, that of a young man and a young woman, had been found on a dirt road, with both having been shot to death earlier that day. Police were dispatched to the scene, and when they arrived, they found that the male victim was wearing a ring with the initials JPF engraved on the inside. Investigators also managed to track down a man who'd met the victims, who claimed that the male victim's name was Jock, or Jacques, and that he was originally from Canada. But there were no such clues hinting at Jane Doe's identity, with police sketches of her face being the only effective source of leads. The police followed up on the leads they received, but these quickly dried up, and just over a year after they were killed, the Does were buried in a cemetery in rural South Carolina. It seemed that their identities had been lost to time, and that they would remain nameless forevermore. However, as decades passed, science advanced, and in 2007, the police were able to successfully develop DNA profiles for both victims, after exhuming their remains. Testing proved that the two victims were not genetically related, disproving the theory that they could be siblings, but it would be another 12 years before the power of DNA could be fully utilised to solve this case. This only became possible in 2019 when the DNA Doe Project, an organisation dedicated to identifying John and Jane Does using genetic genealogy, came on board. They managed to develop new DNA profiles for both victims by extracting DNA from the bone marrow of both, with these new profiles being advanced enough that they could be uploaded to genetic genealogy databases, in this case, GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA. Although the matches on GEDmatch weren't great, they found much higher matches for both those on Family Tree DNA. Jock Doe's highest match shared 219 centimorgans of DNA with him, while Jane Doe's shared 180 centimorgans. To put this into context, sharing 219 centimorgans with someone means that they're likely your second cousin, or around that range, while sharing 180 centimorgans would put you more into the second cousin once removed range, or around about that relationship. Both of these are very decent matches for an experienced genetic genealogist to work with, and by 2020, both those had been identified. This information wasn't initially released to the public, but it has now been revealed that Sumter County Jane Doe was actually Pamela May Buckley. Pamela was born in 1951 in Redwood County, Minnesota, to parents who have both passed away since her disappearance and murder. She attended Redwood Falls High School, where she was a member of their drama and Spanish clubs, as well as becoming a candidate for the position of homecoming queen. She was also chosen as the Redwood JC's Snow Queen in February 1970, but although she was set to be appointed as Miss Redwood Falls the next year, newspaper reports from the time say that she abdicated her throne in order to tour the West Coast with the folk singing trio Sunlending. As it happens, Pamela had also been a member of multiple choirs and the Madrigals Club at school, so her love of music was well established. As part of Sunlending, she performed at venues across the north and west of the United States, before eventually ending up in Colorado, where she married a man in 1972. For whatever reason, this marriage didn't last, and at some point, presumably in 1975, divorce proceedings were initiated. Pamela was last seen in Colorado Springs in December 1975 and was reported missing by her family, who later made further unsuccessful attempts to find out what had happened to her. Until her body was identified last year, the last mention of her in public records was the finalisation of her divorce. It went through on the 20th of August 1976, 11 days after her death. It's important to note that there is no suggestion that her ex-husband was involved in Pamela's disappearance, and he and her wider family deserve privacy at this time, as they come to terms with their loss. I hope you enjoyed this video, and in the future I'll be uploading more videos about cases solved using forensic genealogy, so watch this space, and feel free to ask any questions you might have in the comments. As for the Sumter County Does, they can finally rest in peace with their names having been returned to them, and I hope this brings their families some measure of closure now that they finally know what happened to their loved ones.